Our topic today, we are talking about what changes after being intimate. Ama after you may go through intimacy with somebody, ama you've initiated intimacy, ama intimacy has happened. So basically sex, when sex has happened, what happens next? How do you react, ama what changes? Okay, so I'm here to talk about what changes after being intimate. Number one, kitu ita change, uta notice utaanza ku open up more. You will notice if you are the kind of person who loves to talk, unaweza jipata umeongea sana, and if you are a guy you can find that ule dem mwenye mko na yeye anaongea sana, like she starts opening up, anaanza kukuambia vitu hako amekuambia, depending on probably how much mmekuwa mkiopen up to each other to that point. Okay, but you will find that there are some people, by the way, wenye even after intimacy they don't open up. Unapata kuna wale wasi wenye hata anaweza nyamaza, hata mnaweza kosa story. Okay, but I'll talk about that in another point. But this point hii ya kwanza ni that you start opening up, so you can start, unaweza pata mtu anaanza kuambia za life yake, unapata mtu anaanza kuambia za probably what they've gone through. Unaweza pata pia dem anaweza anza kuambia trauma zake. For men not so much, but they can also open up, anaweza kuambia zile faults ame, because it's a comfort zone. It starts to feel like a comfort space. Okay, so anytime intimacy has happened, kuna hiyo comfort inakujanga, and it's almost like mnaanza kufungua roho. Okay, na hapo ndio unapatanga even somebody can actually say I love you. Unaweza pata mtu maybe hata hakuwa ameplan kusema hivyo, but after intimacy amesema I love you. Okay, and sasa wewe umeambiwa you know unaambiwa unapendwa and you really don't know what to say, so unajipata pia umesema I love you and then something happens, something starts from there. Okay, but it's very awkward. So itaka kuambia mtu unampenda because after intimacy, unless you're in a relationship. The other thing that happens also, you notice that after intimacy, ama what changes also ni ati unapata that most people get to a point where they feel more vulnerable. Okay, na hiyo pia inaweza lead to a say ku open up, but more vulnerable meaning like kama ulikuwa anxious at first, if you are the kind of person mwenye hata huku nataka kuonekana. I know for ladies sometimes they are a bit shy, hawataki kuonekana, they can't walk around kama hajajifunika. So you find that because of intimacy you might get to a point where you start feeling more vulnerable, like uko more, naweza sema aje, like you almost feel like naweza tembea around this person hata akiona, you get. But also there are some ladies who are pretty much shy, but si wote. Kuna wengine wenye hakwangi shy at all, kuna wengine wenye wata insist anataka room ikuwe na giza, kuna wenye wata insist washa stima, kuna wenye wata insist like just to create light in the room. But once they become more vulnerable, they really don't care. Sawa, wanaenda tu na flow, wanaenda tu na venye iko, wanaacha kuwa na inaitwaje, anaacha kuwa na tu zinaitangwa aje, anaacha kuwa na zile vitu ati amejiwekea to rules, kind of to rules. So it's like they let go of their rules, they let go of maybe zile vitu zenye alikuwa anasema hii lazima ihappen, they let go of that and they just become vulnerable, wanaenda na what works. Okay, the other thing also, what might also change ni you might get to a point where you feel like you're falling more in love with this person, because let me tell you, after intimacy has happened, of course kuna connection. There's a connection that maybe we may not see with our own eyes, but there's something that happens. Okay, that's why unasikianga watu wakisema story ya soul ties. I'm really not big on that, but there's a connection that happens and inafanya wase wakam pamoja. So it's almost like you've known each other physically, you've known each other mentally, so now you're getting to a point where ni kama mnajuana sensually. It's like mna merge in some way. Okay, so I don't think there's any big explanation about it. Ni kitu lazima experience, ama ni kitu after experience ndo uta understand kenya nasema. But there's always that, kuna always that bond. There's a bond that is created. So that's why unapatanga even ladies sometimes unapata anaanza kuongeleshia vizuri, anaanza kukani kama amechange. Even a guy, as a lady you might notice the guy ataanza kuongea poa, ataanza kukubeba with more like ataanza kukubeba like a precious person. Kama at first alikuwa a bit rough, unapata after intimacy they might start to treat you a bit well, anaanza kukuonesha, anaanza kukuita sweet names. Like it's almost because of that bond that they start to become, they start bringing out another version of themselves. Okay, just because the bond has happened. Kitu ingine intimacy inaweza change, you might start to think about this person even more. Unaweza anza kumfikiria, uko like sasa umsi ako wapi, and hapo katikati ndio unajuanga is this lust or is this love. Okay, because kama ni love, you really don't care about the next time yenye mta spend pamoja, you really don't care ati mechi next itakuwa ni lini. But anytime when it's lust, you always thinking nitamuona lini next. So unaanza kumkimbiza, it's like you just want it to happen again and again and again. Okay, na let me tell you, last can be kwa pande pia ya dem, inaweza kuwa pia kwa pande ya chali. So don't assume ati ni wanaume pekee wanakuanga na last, hata wanawake. Okay, even women get to a point where they just want it. For them, they've just made up their mind, maybe ataki kitu serious, yeye anataka tu mechi. Okay, so as a guy sometimes you have to read in between the lines. Unaweza dhani dem ameanza kukupenda, kumbe yeye she just wants that company, anataka tu your mechi, and it might get to a point where she tells you we can no longer do this again. So kama wewe umeanza kufall in love, utakuwa disappointed kama mwanaume. Okay, and that's why you find that even manipulation can come in at that point. Unapata dem anakuambia I miss irudi kwako tena, you know, and there's probably nothing you have done, but because anaona maybe una insist, ama anaona una muinvite tena akuje kwa hao na nini, na alikuwa anakuja for those previous times, tuseme amekuja mara kama 3, by the time unamuita mara ya 4 anaweza anza kukaa nikana kumanipulate, anakuambia hapana, sasa hivi sitakuja Netflix and chill, sasa nataka unipeleke date pahali ama tupatane nje. So you find that conversation might begin. Okay, so as a guy, if you choose to go that direction, what might happen ni unaweza pata you are trying to please this lady, because unaona ni yeye ameanza kukudirect. So hapo ndio wanaanza kukucontrol, wanaanza kufeel like kumbe naweza ambia mse afanye hiki kitu na anafanya. Alright, so I think if as a guy you don't want to be manipulated ama you don't want to be controlled, I would say go silent. And if she really likes you, atakutafuta whether you go silent or not. Okay, so sometimes you really have just to stand with your, lazima usimame na kenye unaamini. As a guy you have to stand with what you believe. Alright, the other thing also that can happen ni you come to realize that anytime intimacy has happened, unaweza discover something about this person that you didn't know. Maybe akona tattoo fulani yenye huku najua iko part fulani ya mwili yake, maybe hako amekwambia. You might find this person probably, kama ni mtu alikuwa anajikata, maybe always they were always hiding their, you know, they were always hiding their arms, so haungewaiona. So because of intimacy you might find umse kume anakuanga na injury fulani, ama umse kume anakuanga na mark fulani, umse kume anakuanga na birth mark fulani. So those are things that you come to find out. Okay, unaweza find out features about them, because I want to say this, when you're thinking about a person's, you know, someone's body, you know, the face ndio inakuanga more of like enye ina face the world every day, but their body inakuanga more of like it's covered every time nini. And by the way, that's why I always say, by the day when you unazangalia hivi useme udem anakaa hakai kwa mrembo, ama you know, when you look at their face you might think they are not pretty, ile siku unaweza ona mwili yake ndio utajua we. So me, I always have this ideology, I always have this idea that any girl when unadhani ati ni kienyeji ama dem hako pretty sana, wait until they uncover ndio utajua yenyewe huo dem ako na urembo. Okay, the other thing also you have to consider is after intimacy, that's when most guys actually wanajuanga kama they want to see you again ama they never want to see you again. I think even for ladies, but for men sana, because sometimes we have that, tunakuanga na hiyo, you know, moment of clarity when, you know, when the thing happens. As a guy unakuanga na hiyo moment of clarity ile ya what am I doing here, ama who is this person, mbona niliita huyu mse, unaget. And the worst thing about it ni it can reoccur again and again and again, because imagine as a guy uko hapo, probably you met this one person, alafu you know you guys did it for the first time, you did it the first time, and then something pissed you off about it, and then sasa mkaachana, kila mtu akaenda njia zake, and then weeks pass, haujapata mwingine, weeks pass, haujapata chance nyingine, weeks pass, haujapata opportunity nyingine, and then you think to yourself, wacha nitafute ule, wacha nirudie tu ule mmoja. Unamrudia tena, ina happen, uko like kwa nini nimerudi? So you might find yourself as a guy in that cycle. It's a perpetual cycle of you're always going back to the lady mwenye unashinanga ukisema sitairudi odem tena, sitaimtafuta tena, sitaimpigia simu tena, and you always keep going back there, either because kuna ka experience fulani, ama because you're not meeting other people. Alright, you're not getting an opportunity with other people, so uko like awacha nirudie huyo. Sasa ambaye shida inakujianga penye huyo na yeye anaanza kuringa, because amerealize kumbe unamwendeanga ile time yenye uko na kutu. Okay, so that can happen. And then the other thing could be you can find somebody more attractive, and nasema like you might discover them when they are uncovered, when they are, you know, ile time hawana nini, unapata like wow, like una get more attracted to them because now unaona beauty yake wholesomely, you can see their beauty, the whole of their beauty, so unaweza kuwa wow, you know. And you know, you can fall in love with a person because of an aspect of their beauty. Maybe akona you know akona kamgongo kapoa, akona skin poa. You know, I've experienced that, and unaangalia demu unashindwa we kwani anaoganga na maziwa na honey. So you know, there's always that experience where you see something more when you get intimate with somebody that you would have never seen ukiwaangalia tu kwa uso. Okay, so yeah, so make sure you comment hapo niambie what changed for you. And of course kwa hii yote, protection. Don't have intimacy unless you have protection. All right, but nikimalizia, tell me kwa comment section, what do you think, what are some of the things zenye unadhani zenye zina changing after intimacy has happened?
Gachin Lion.